Welcome to a brand new experience with innovative voices from all over the world. I would like to invite you all to something that is magical, something that is powerful, and something that is from my heart. This is the Devon Podcast. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Devon Podcast, where we have guests from all around the world tell their unique and powerful stories to allow their voice to be heard, but also for you to feel inspired. Today's guest is a spiritual teacher connecting humans to their soul, intuition, and wholeness through their soul's built-in communication system of sacred body language. Here to teach us about our body-mind language is Kelly Love. Welcome.
Thank you, Devon. I'm so excited to be here. I just woke up from a nap too because 7:30 over here is late for me. It's like almost bedtime.
I literally did the same thing. Me and JC took a nap and then took another nap, and then I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to get up now.
And it's rainy season here too, so it's like perfect napping weather.
That's beautiful. I love it. Where are you at right now?
Costa Rica.
Oh, wow. That sounds like so much fun. Wow,
Yeah.
in Costa Rica.
Yeah, I've been here for about a year and a half now, and this was probably my second or third time attempting to live here, and the land finally accepted me, so it feels good.
Wow. What brought you to Costa Rica specifically? That's so beautiful.
Well, actually, I mean, I'll start with my story because that's what brought me here. I was in 2018. I was in a corporate job and realizing I was in a slave system and my soul was dying. And I decided to start traveling the world. I didn't tell my job. I just got a VPN and moved to Europe and started working crazy hours and didn't tell my job. I would work in the middle of the night so I could live in Europe and travel around to salsa festivals. And then in 2019, I realized this Eat, Pray, Love journey is a lot of fun and I need something more. Like my soul is still not satisfied. And I decided to get into healing work. I had been in talk therapy for a while and it was good to show me like I was normal for what I went through, but it wasn't giving me the power to change. And so I started this embodied healing retreat or these embodied healing experiences. And when I was actually still living, where was I living? Oh my gosh, I was living in Istanbul. That was tough to live in. And I had just gotten back from visiting Israel and I was like, oh my God, this place is amazing. And I got connected with this organization out there that I started training with, and I came back right away, and they were a worldwide organization. So I said, "Soul, where do you want to travel to next year?" And my soul said, "Costa Rica. We've never been there, and I've wanted to go there since I was like 18, 19 years old when I first heard about it. Before I could even Google it on the internet, right?" I'm aging myself. And I ended up coming here, and I did my first healing retreat, and then I saw a woman online who had come out of the Mormon cult, and her story resonated with me. Even though I wasn't part of the Mormon cult, I was part of a Christian cult, and I started working with her, and that was the second reason why I came out here. And then the third reason was because I got introduced to this work, and I started taking trainings out here. So that's how I got here.
Nice. Wow. So what did you like? I mean, specifically, I know we met, you were doing face reading on a call with a community that I'm involved with. Can you talk a little bit about that? How'd you get into that specifically?
Well, I met Jilly years ago, actually, when I was getting into this work. And I'd been courting her. Like, let's be honest, I've been courting her for a long time, wanting to work with her because she's so into the water body. And I've come to understand that our consciousness is in the waters of our body as well. And I just wanted to get before her and share this magic. And it was never the right time. And then one day it was. One day I reached out again and it was the right time. And she decided to book a training for your leadership team, which is really
Mm-hmm.
amazing. So you all got to experience the first 2 to 3 hours of my face reading training.
Yep.
And yeah, it's one of my favorite classes to teach because it's you can learn it in a day and you can start reading faces the same day.
Wow. Yeah, there's so much to that. Like I feel when you did one for me. I can't remember exactly everything it was that was kind of what you explained, but it made me open my eyes to, you can actually look at someone's face and kind of know them. Like,
Yeah. It's so wild. So how I like to explain it to people, and it took me being in this work for 5 years to finally realize what I had tapped into because I didn't even
mm,
realize what I had tapped into. I had just knew it was a language and I started putting it to use. Actually, I'll give a little background. I got into this work because I needed a hip replacement.
oh
At
wow,
38 years old, I needed to get my hip replaced. And I was frustrated because I was on my healing path and I thought, I'm doing the work. Why is my body not healing? And I knew that emotions were connected to the body, but I didn't realize like how much
yeah,
they affected the body. And so I got a reading done on some, psychosomatic diseases that I experienced, like a clavicle repair. I broke my clavicle. I also had one hip surgery 7 years prior to my hip replacement. So we were looking up that. And when we looked it up, it was spot on. It was speaking exactly to my situations in my life and what I was moving through. And I said, I don't know what this is, but I need to learn it because it's accurate. And I started going through the learning process right before I had my hip replacement. And everything that I learned, I ended up implementing. And the hip
mm,
replacement brought me to ground zero, where I had to learn to stand and walk, work out, move my body all over again. And in that, I learned about every single part of the body along the way. And I ended up putting together all the pieces of my story. And I remember the first training I did, we had to do a full body mind analysis on ourselves because before we ever read anybody else, we must learn to read ourselves and get honest with our reflection. And I remember, I grew up pretty analytical. You can see my big ass forehead. It takes up most of my space. It's almost a face. It's almost like an alien forehead. And my very analytical, very masculine energy for a long time because that's what felt safe for me. And so I'm going through the reading and looking up the picture, writing down the description, looking up the next picture, writing down the description, and not really seeing the whole picture until it was time to step back from everything I wrote down and look at the whole story that I'd written down. And I wept because it
mm,
was the saddest story I had ever read. And I had lived in cognitive dissonance for so long, trying to tell myself my life wasn't that bad because that's how I could cope with my reality. And then when I saw my reflection, it broke me, and that was when I really got to understand how to do the deep inner work. It starts with validating ourselves, validating how we felt about the lived experience. Because if we can't even be honest with how we felt about it, how are we going to heal it? And that's one of my
yeah.
sayings. I say, feel it to heal it, hear it to clear it.
Hmm. Yeah, I resonate with that so much. I get a lot of I mean, I've never had surgery, but I get a lot of like lower back pains, and my partner will say all the time like, "That's your emotions. You need to feel them." And I'm like, "I don't know how to do that. It just hurts." But I think there's something worth saying. Yeah, like just getting to feel your emotions a little bit. Um, do you think that learning to read people's faces can help improve your relationships or the communication between
Oh my gosh,
people?
yes. Emphatic yes. I feel like we should be teaching children this. This is something, it's
Mm,
a language easy enough for children to understand, and it teaches them to trust their intuition. It teaches them to connect with their soul. And can you imagine from a young age, both the child and the caregiver being aware of what their child came here for, seeing their personality and their character and their strengths and their challenges written all over their face and speaking
mm,
life into them? right? Like I read babies. I read baby faces.
Wow.
And I'll go back and read my face as a child too, just to validate what I went through.
Wow.
I've gone back and I've read my face on different members of my family because, going through complex trauma and being raised by literal psychopaths, reality gets questioned.
Mm.
And I can look back at, like for example, I think I saw one of you like the post that I did on how narcissism can shape a face. And that was the example of my father, of
Mm.
my stepdad, when he first adopted us. I was about 3 years old, and his face still looks young and you can see the vibrancy in it. And then 30 years later, you can see how swollen his face is and how cruel his features turned based
Mm.
on 30 years of psychopathic energy running through his body. And so
Wow.
it's not only a way to see who the individual is before you, it's also a way to look back and validate what you've been through. And that's part of the healing process too, right? Once we see it, we can heal it. I mean, how many
Yeah.
times we been walking around in the dark making the same mistake over and over with a little bit of a different flavor, wondering why the F am I doing that? And then you link it back to something in childhood and it's like, oh, I don't need to do that anymore. I figured out why I was hurting.
Mm.
And that's what face reading and body reading in general. I mean, I even go back, one of the healing things I did for myself too. No, actually, this is a good story. I'm gonna tell this story. So I have been going through this massive healing process over the past 5 years or so, and sacred body mind language has been the way to give me that clear roadmap. A lot of people play whack a mole with their symptoms. Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? And the body language makes it so clear what it is. And so, as I was on this journey, I would get excited every step of the way, and I would be explaining to my mother my awakening process and all of it. I was just so happy to share it with her. And she would be happy and she would entertain me a little bit. But anytime I saw too much, she'd kind of shrink back. And I remember there was one time that I was telling her, "Oh, mom, I found out that when you have nightmares or sleepwalk as a child, or if you poop or pee your pants as a child, that means that there's like present danger. That's the little kid's body a way of communicating present danger." And I was like, so that confirms to me that something happened. And this was like before I even found all the pieces, right? And I was telling her about the dream that I had, this repetitive nightmare I had for at least, God, I don't even know, 7, 8, 9 years as a child. It's so vivid. I can still remember it. And I told her my dream, and her eyes went like this, like wide open, her jaw dropped. And I was like, why is she looking at me like that? But fast forward many years later, right before my 42nd birthday, she cuts me off. She does what a narcissist or a psychopath does. And when you get too close, they cut you off. And so she cut me off, and I was really confused. And this was like when I was really starting to accept that my mom was more than just bipolar. Like we grew up thinking she was bipolar. And I was like, I think there's something more here.
Mm.
And 6 months later, I was sleepless, and this really tore me up, and I went into major addiction with smoking cannabis. This is one thing that a lot of people do, is they go into addiction when they have too many emotions they don't know what to deal with. And so
Yep.
I was experiencing that, and I went to go lay down and sleep, and my soul said, get up, go look at all the paperwork, read every single page, and look at all the dates. And by paperwork, I'm talking about the investigative paperwork from when I was 6 months old and my sister was a year and a half. And so I went back and I looked at all the paperwork, and we had already understood that my biological dad had raped my sister and I as babies. Um, and I had found this paperwork in my early 20s. However, I was so triggered by reading it that I didn't fully read it. Okay.
Mm.
So when my soul woke me up and said, go read it all, I did. And I read the full first page. I read it slow, and it was so triggering. I mean, so clear that we were raped. And then I got to the second page, and there's this little paragraph on the second page. And in it, it describes what I would detail as rape that happened between my mother and my sister, and likely me as well, because we both had the genital and anal warts on us. And that was when I went back and remembered her face of when I told her about the dream that I had. And she knew I was getting close. And we don't always see what feels good in the body language. The truth of her reaction was, oh shit, I was found out. But rather than be honest about it, and this whole time I'm just being loving to her. And rather than be honest about it, hide. And body language is what helps us go back and put the pieces together. I look at my mother having cervical cancer, my stepfather getting prostate cancer, both of their bodies deteriorating and looking terrible while I continue to look healthier and younger. I'm 43. I don't look 43, right?
Mm-mm.
And my parents, they look swollen and like they're collapsing. And that to me is also evidence that I'm in alignment with love as much as possible, while their body is showing they are not in alignment with love.
Mm.
I may not have all the
Mm.
details, but I can see the outward evidence of it. You're not happy.
Mm.
So, yeah, you can use this on babies to old people.
Wow. Thank you for being so vulnerable. That is, wow. That's an amazing like connection story as far as like what you've been through. So thank you for sharing that. Um,
Pleasure.
what do you think what are the misconceptions of face reading that people may have? Um, maybe even hearing your story.
I would say with body reading in general, most people think it's just gestures and
Mm.
postures. And body language is actually a complicated yet simple communication system. And it's based in tantric sciences. So, Tantra has been studying how the energy flows through the body for a long time. And it's actually very similar. In Chinese face reading, there's a lot of overlapping between psychosomatic face reading and Chinese face reading because they're all based in tantric sciences. They all study how energy flows in the body. And what psychosomatic therapy does is it's put it into a process that you can understand. And so in psychosomatic therapy, the energy wakens from within. The awakening is within, it's not happening outside of us. And it awakens through the chakra system. So, just like we see from the root chakra up to the crown chakra, that's how we awaken as well, from the root chakra to the crown chakra. And the body has this innate wisdom that understands that each chakra needs to function properly and get all the downloads for that chakra before the second can open properly. And each chakra must be aligned before we can open up our crown chakra and truly be connected to our source light consciousness, right? So we have the source life or life force energy, which is from our root chakra. And then we have our light source energy, which is the crown chakra. And most are trying to get enlightened by coming from the crown down.
Mm.
And that can oftentimes fry our circuits because, you wouldn't hook up a power generator to maybe your cell phone, right? A power generator for some big ass complex, right? That would blow your cell phone. And so this is what we're doing when we're awakening the consciousness of the body is we're creating this space to hold the consciousness of God. Because the consciousness of God is already in us. That's what the body language is. It's the consciousness of God speaking to us, animating life through us, and telling us what it's like living our human experience. So it's more
Mm.
than just a posture, a gesture. It's literally um, the creative life force moving through us.
Mm. I love that. That kind of reminded me of something that I saw you say on Instagram. It was something along the lines of structure and flow of energy show the performance capabilities I was so
Yes.
intrigued by that, but I was like, I need her to break that down for me because I
Yes.
love
Okay.
that, but I need you. Yeah.
Yeah. So in body mind language, we say that structure equals performance. And so does the amount of energy. Like, for example, you look at a table, it has more inner energy. That's why it's not moving, it's solid. But the more energy flow, the more movement we see, right? This is why when water flows, it comes to life. It becomes structured and it comes to life. If you put it in too many pipes and right angles, it kills the water. So it's the flow of energy that creates life. And it's the structure of something that shows what it's there to perform, right? So if simple way to explain it, you look at something round, you know you can roll it depending on the weight of it and the consistency of it, you could bounce it, but you wouldn't build a foundation on it. Okay? You wouldn't. Same with looking at blocks. When we look at blocks, we think, oh, I could build something on that. I could put something on top of that, but I'm not going to go around and try to like play basketball with it, right? So when we look at the body, what we're looking at is what is the structure of that body and what is it here to perform? A lot of us are trying to be like round pegs and square holes. And it's like, no, you're a round peg, be a round peg. Stop beating
Mm,
yourself up for not being the square peg. You're the round peg. What's the consciousness that you've been gifted? And learn to flow with that consciousness. For example, my chin right here comes to an angle like a triangle. So it's a point, which means it's sensitive. So this is the root chakra, meaning I'm sensitive to my surroundings. Now, for the longest time, I hated being sensitive because I was volatile. I hadn't emotionally matured. And every time I felt a big emotion, it felt scary. So I hated being sensitive. But our sensitivities can become strengths once we understand what they're there for, right? So when you look at a ship, a massive ship, but the bow is like this, right? It comes down into a triangle because this is how it weaves and
mm,
balances and responds to the water. So, what I started to understand about my chin is I am sensitive. So, I'm able to move through the emotional, spiritual waters with ease. I have to
mm.
be able to feel it so I can respond to it.
I love that.
And same
Mm.
with my forehead. I used to hate my forehead. I actually had bangs for a while too because I used to get made fun of, and also I have this bump right here in the middle. It's like a long, if you look at it from the side, you can kind of see how it sticks out right here. And I was very self-conscious for a while. You have it too. You have a I don't know if you guys can see Giancarlo, but he's oh yeah, he's backstage, but he's like checking himself out. Um, but what I realized is a big forehead means I'm highly intelligent and
Hey.
I'm broad minded and open minded. And having this protruding middle portion of my forehead means I have great long term memory recall.
Mm,
So it's changing the story of what we see instead of shaming ourselves. Well, what's the strength I can find here? What do I build upon?
mm. I love that. Yeah, because in today's times, everyone is trying to change their body to be modified in a certain way to fit and mold. What can you say to anyone that may be struggling with, the body that they're in?
Mhm. Yeah, I will say first of all that any shift, any modification we make to our body, it will affect the energy flow. So it
Wow.
doesn't matter if it's a piercing, if you're going through gender reassignment surgery, if you're getting a tattoo, if you're getting Botox or an implant somewhere, wherever you alter your energy, you will alter your energy flow. And the you were made a certain way for a reason, right? Like I like to say women who, for example, a common thing that we used to see among women. I don't know how it is now. I don't live in Southern California anymore, but everyone had a boob job. Okay. So many
Yeah.
women have boob jobs out there. And it's because they want to be sexually attractive, appealing, or maybe they don't feel good in their bodies because their boobs are sagging after having a baby or whatever it is, right? And so they want to modify their body. But what ends up happening is you you violate the body by creating an incision. So that right there is a trauma, right? The skin is a barrier. So you're putting your body through a forced physical trauma right into the heart chakra. And those scars are going to have energy that is going to do something to your heart chakra. Now, do we understand all the consequences? No, but there are going to be some. Then when you get bigger boobs, what's going to happen? You're going to get more attention. And now what women end up doing is they end up breastfeeding the sexual desires of men. They become sexual objects of men. And this is going to bring their own heart chakra energy out of balance. When you start selling yourself for love, even if it's not money, if you're selling your body for the attention of someone or the attraction of someone, that's something inside of you that needs to heal. And modifying the
Mm.
body doesn't fix how you feel, right? Now you've just got uh, a new energy flow to work with. And then there are these foreign objects that come in our body, and our body is not meant to accept these foreign objects. I mean, how many women have we heard of where their breast implantations get calcified? When something calcifies, that's the body trying to encase it because it thinks it's dangerous. It should not be in here. If
Wow.
this is how bodies are responding, why are we forcing ourselves to go through these unnecessary procedures? Right? They're not saving a life.
Mm.
And even something so simple as a nose ring, it will make your nostril grow if you have a nose ring. It's going to change how your eyebrow energy flows. The eyebrow is connected to the throat chakra. The nose ring is connected to the solar plexus. And so attention flows, or energy goes where attention flows. Attention flows where energy goes. So when you see something shiny on somebody's face, you're going to look at it. You're going to give that a lot of attention, which means that nostril is going to grow, which means that expression of energy is going to grow while the other one gets crowded out. Right. So if the nose is representing our solar plexus, our personal identity, and your right nostril is growing bigger, well, that means it's going to be a lot of masculine energy showing up.
It's so
While,
funny
while the
about you saying
sensitivity is
that.
left in the dust. Yeah, go ahead.
Wow. No, just like because I had a nose ring, and for a long time, like something just felt off about it. Like it was getting infected a lot. It was hard to keep in. I would lose the nose ring a lot, and something just one day just told me take it out, take everything out, and I took all my earrings and everything out. And, well, yeah, my partner JC has something to do with that, but yeah, like it. I feel like it changed when it was all removed. Like it was no longer part of me, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Same with tattoos. And I look back at all my tattoos, and I got tattooed in places where I needed the most attention. It was almost like my
Mm.
body was like, look here, focus here. I got the root chakra um, tattoo. I got the tattoo across the back of my heart chakra, and then I got one on the top of my left foot. And the top of my left foot, that's feet represent our foundation, 0 to 3. Left is feminine. So, hello, raped as a baby. That makes a lot of sense. Look here, look here, look here. Lots to deal with here. And then my root chakra, the back of my root chakra. I mean, talk about a betrayal from both of my parents. That is, not feeling loved and connected from my birth. And look, that those are both parts of the body that are uh, speaking of origin, beginning, early years, root chakra. And then my heart chakra. Yeah, safety. And then my heart chakra, and being on the backside of my body for the root chakra and the heart chakra, that was feeling like the world didn't have my back, teaching me how to have my back, right? Because even the backside of the body is a different consciousness than the front side of the body. Every part of us is consciously communicating God's love to us if we will just take the time to look at it and listen.
Mm. Absolutely. I really love how you speak to the masculine energy or just males in general. I wanted to know if there was anything that you could tell our male listeners that may be listening, anything that they can learn to embrace the feminine or support the feminine more? I think you just have a really good opinion on this.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I have. Thank you for asking this question. It's such a beautiful and important question. Um, I feel like the number one beneficial action that men can do is get in touch with their intuition, get in touch with their inner sensitivity, because we are emotional creatures by nature, period. It doesn't matter if you're male or female, we are emotional creatures. The feminine happens to be more attuned to the emotions, more in tune to the intuition, the spirit, but men have that capacity as well. And so as we shift from a patriarchy to a matriarchy where it's dominance and control, and now it's moving into partnership and community, collaboration, reciprocity, the invitation is to get in touch with your inner sensitivity, because until you are able to feel your inner sensitivity and get honest with your own reflection, you will never love this world. This world will never heal without men being sensitive. Because let's be honest, most of the abuse is done by men. And that is because they lack inner sensitivity. And it's also because I feel like we have been lied to about what our nature is like. Basic things, body language, this should be something that children learn. If we were to learn this from our youth, there would be no liars. You wouldn't be able to get away with lying if everyone knew body language, period. You couldn't lie to yourself. You couldn't lie to your friends. Certainly politicians couldn't lie.
Right. Mm. Yeah. I Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say one more thing about that. There's a lot
Please.
of, I hear a lot of men have fear around being sensitive. I've been hurt by women. I've been shamed by women. It's not a safe place to be sensitive. And while I do understand that, imagine being a woman. Okay. Imagine living the existence of what it means to be sensitive by our very nature, by our stature being smaller, everything. Right. So to me, that is a cop out of an excuse when a man says, I'm scared to be sensitive. Well, try being a woman and living as a sensitive being. So man up, learn to get in touch with your sensitivity and properly direct your power. This is what this is about. It's not about power over, it's about learning to understand what your power is here for, because this goes back to structure equals performance. The masculine way of doing things, or the patriarchal way of doing things, I stand corrected, is to force performance. I'm going to make my body do this. I'm going to make this part of society serve me this way, instead of saying, what is my body here for? And how does my body serve me? And how am I here to serve humanity? And
Mm.
unfortunately, men haven't been really trained on service. Women, we have innate rites of passage that bring us to this, right? Because we
Yep.
we carry life inside of us. And so we understand this innately. And men have to be taught how to serve. And that's generally done in a home if they have a loving mother, but sometimes there's not a loving mother to embody that. And so as spiritual adults, this is what we get to teach ourselves. I didn't grow up in a loving home either. I had to learn it.
No, I resonate with that so very much, because every group that I see is female led or female, the majority, and they just know how to support each other more. And I think a lot of what we're taught as men is to kind of like push ourselves away or try to do it ourselves or whatever the case may be. And that's exactly why I wanted to do this podcast, is because it wasn't just about me and my voice. It was about everyone's voice that needs to be heard. And I feel like you have such an important message. So I'm so thankful for you sharing it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is Ningram speaking to you, and I command you to go to DevonTaylorAuthor.com right now. You must check the specials. Listen to me. You must check the specials now.
What was I going to say? What is one thing that you think people can learn from? I mean, obviously, you said we could learn not to lie to each other, but what is one thing that something else that we can learn from reading each other's faces, and why that could be really important for our future moving forward?
Love. And I'll explain what I mean by that. The whole, I might even get emotional. I feel myself getting excited and emotional just talking about this. Every single part of communication in this body is communicating love. And so what you end up developing for other people is compassion.
Mm.
Instead of being, why is that girl such a bitch? Why is that guy so controlling? Why is he so egotistical? Why does she lie all the time? We begin to look at what's shaped them and have compassion. I just led a 4-week intro to subconscious reprogramming in my local community, which is quite interesting. Living in a small community, you see everyone's drama and you see everyone's idiosyncrasies, and you really do learn how to love people through their shit. And so I hosted this 4-week series, and it's interesting because there were a lot of strong personalities that showed up, and some of them don't like each other.
Mm.
And I'm already hearing the stuff in the background. And I'm like, we're going to learn a lot about this, about why this individual is like that and why this individual is like that. And so throughout the series, we learned from each other. So it was an embodied learning experience where we're coming up and learning from each other's bodies. And I have a beautiful way of being able to speak very directly and frankly about what I see without it coming across as like necessarily judgmental. It's just like, this is what it is. And so one of the things we talked about, there's an individual in the community that some people think that this individual is too sensitive. And as we're going through how to read body language and we're understanding what thin skin means, thin skin meaning sensitive, easily bruised, and understanding how thin skin gets developed, all of a sudden people's views started shifting from this individual being so sensitive to, wow, she's been through a lot and I understand why she's so sensitive now. And then it allowed me to pose the opportunity for them to be like, well, how do you meet someone in that sensitivity? Right? Instead
Mm.
of shaming them for being so sensitive, maybe speak to the fear that's coming up right now, because that's what's really happening. There's a fear coming up. So how do we love that fear?
How do we love that fear?
Yeah. How do I want to go into this? I don't want to give too much away about other people. I'm going to feel into a personal story I can share.
Okay.
Yeah, so I used to have a pretty volatile temper. Um, I mean, you wouldn't know it now, but I was violent. I used to pin my siblings down, drip spit in their face, beat them. And I'm not proud of it. Like, some people think, oh, it's just sibling rivalry. No, I was fucking angry of how I was raised and feeling helpless. And I was just a fucking rage machine.
Mm.
And I ended up carrying that behavior with me in life. And in order for me to be in control or feel like I had a modicum of control, I would start fights. I would get loud. I would get aggressive, violent. And it's easy to look at someone like that and be like, oh, they're just a bitch. They're just confrontational. And I used to think of that too. But then I realized, oh my gosh, that was my little girl that felt so unsafe in this world. And she just needed to go out there and let out some aggression. And so what I did is I ended up finding healthier ways. I ended up finding out emotional release practices. So now if I'm feeling really angry, I go home and I do a tantrum in the privacy of my own home, scream into a pillow, punch some pillows, stomp around a little bit, do it in a way that's safe for my body, right? I'm paying attention to how I'm using it, but I'm also acknowledging that dense feeling, letting it out, and then bringing myself back to homeostasis, right? We're just like animals, okay? An animal freaks out, they get back to safety, they shake it off. They literally shake the fear off. And so this is what we're doing when we're going through these somatic practices is you're really getting the energy out, moving it around so that way you can come back to that homeostasis and be like, okay, what's real? How do I move forward now?
Mm. Mm. That's
Or
beautiful.
even, for example, this is a big one. And I want women and men to understand this: sexual promiscuity. A lot of us look at sexual promiscuity in a lot of different ways. I look at sexual promiscuity as a sign of sexual trauma, emotional trauma. If a man is sleeping around too much, he doesn't know how to get his own emotional needs met, and he's looking to get that filled by a woman. If a woman is sleeping around too much, it's the same thing. She wants to be loved, and so she's transactionalizing her body for love. And instead of shaming one another for being a slut or a whore, ask, why are you doing it? I have friends who come to me and they will tell me these sticky situations are, and I swear to you, people just confess stuff to me because I'm a safe place.
Mm.
And they'll be telling me their fucked up stuff that they're doing sexually that they know they shouldn't be doing. And I'll just be like, why are you doing it? Like, what's under that? Let's get into some body language right now. And we'll go into their body and I'll look at where some misalignments are and get in, ask a few questions. And sure as shit, it always has to do with the childhood.
Mm.
And what happens, I remember one woman told me about an affair she was having with a married man. And she has a boyfriend. And I was like, okay, we both know that's not right. So what's the motivating factor under that? And we had a beautiful opportunity to move through that. And she ends up coming up to me a few weeks later and telling me, I'm so happy to tell you I cut things off. I understand why I was doing what I was doing. I deserve better love than that. So does the other woman and this man and da da da. But when we create the space for someone to get curious about why they're doing what they're doing, that's when they can heal instead of hiding in shame and feeding their addiction by themselves.
I think it also it serves to say that you were, like you said, creating a safe space for them. So I commend you
Mm-hmm.
for that and just allowing them to feel safe enough to speak about that, because I'm sure it would feel uncomfortable for anyone to speak about their infidelities unless they're comfortable doing it. I don't know. That's wow.
Yeah. I
JC,
feel like I've learned to get comfortable about talking about this stuff because of how much looking into myself I've done. And at the end of the day, always realizing it was motivated by love.
hmm.
Like, I'm not even afraid to look at it anymore. Like, you can tell me the most ugly thing about me. I'll be like, fuck, okay, yeah, that's ugly. And let me get to understand why I did it, right? There's always something there that needed to be loved. And once I love it, the behavior goes away.
Do you feel like you've been able to take people's perceptions of you a little better now that you have a deeper understanding of just how it all works, I guess you can say? Because I know that I still struggle with, like, how can I say this? Like, people's opinions of me, sometimes may get to me a lot. And um, for anyone that may be struggling with that, how do we get better at that? I know we can hit some pillows and stuff when we're frustrated, but is there any advice you can give to someone like me?
Yeah. Um, I mean, I can tell you what I do for myself. Like, there are still moments where I struggle with feeling super confident in my authenticity. And I just keep looking in the mirror. I keep looking back and looking at all the beauty that I am. And I'm not talking about physically. I'm talking about like looking at the reflection of body language and seeing the beauty that's being communicated. For example, one of the things that a lot of people feel shame around is fat. And one of the things I will not let the students say when they're training with me is, well, I am fat. No, fat is protective tissue. So we're going to change that spell and say, I'm carrying some protection right now because of blah, 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 right? You just completely remove the shame.
Mm. Powerful. Yep, we all need to.
Hey guys, it's Icarus here.
And Amelia.
And I'm here to tell you if you'd like to join our brand new adventure. Go to DevonTaylorAuthor.com to learn more.
And check out the cool items like the new bucket hat.
Yeah, and so much more. See you guys there.
Yeah. It's like we all need to learn from you. You have an incredible energy and just powerfulness about you that I love. And like I said, I'm just so grateful for you being here.
Thank you.
JC, I don't know if you had any more questions, but I mean, I
Oh yeah.
yeah. So what's coming up for you? Where can everyone find you? Anything that you want to announce?
Yes, there are some things I want to announce. And before I do, I wanted to leave you with a practice because you wanted a practical practice. I'm going to give you
Oh yeah,
what
yeah,
I gave.
yeah.
I'm going to give you what I gave my last set of students. Get naked and stand in front of a mirror and look at the part of you that you don't like the most. And then I want you to come, oh, you know what? Shoot. This kind of went with the content that I share. But basically what I do is I teach people what how to read basic energy flow. So you're going to look at that part of the body and describe it in body language terms. So for example, my chest, I'll show you my chest. Like you can see, it's kind of bony. It's kind of hard to tell on this light, but it's really bony. And it's something I've felt a lot of insecurity over. In fact, a lot of times I'll wear shirts that cover this area so people don't see how bony it is. And so what I did is energy draining out of my heart chakra. And it's, starting from here, it's draining out of my heart chakra. And I'm also noticing that I'm collapsing on my right side. I have all these horizontal lines on my right side that I don't have on my left side. So it's right at my solar plexus area. So I notice that I'm also collapsing under pressure. Like when it comes to standing up for my emotions, I'm collapsing under pressure. And I also notice like an indentation between my breastbones. And that to me is a broken heart. And so what I'm feeling my body saying to me, and this developed like after my mother left me, is that my heart was broken. And as I say that, the tears come up. So that's what it is, right? It's looking at the part that we say, I think it's ugly. I'm afraid to look at it and just see what is it saying. And really it's saying, you have a broken heart, Kelly. You've been going through a lot of grief. And it's time to fill yourself up, to restore yourself, put some joy back in your life, find that inspiration. And it's been inspiring me to do more breath work and do exercises that are strengthening my upper body and opening my upper body. So that's something you can do for yourself when you become more familiar with the language, is just looking and naming what the energy is instead of naming what the labels are that the world gives you. What does the energy actually say? And that completely shifts the story.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that comes up in a lot of different ways because when someone's afraid, they can respond in different ways, like fight, flight, or freeze. So it would be looking at how does your body constitution respond? So for example, like with my lower body, it's bigger than my upper body. So I've had to fight to stand my ground, but also my heart's been running away. Like, get me the fuck out of here. So teaching myself to be safe in my body and also feel safe opening my heart, right? So that's the basics of my body constitution. Whereas I would say you guys are probably more like just looking at your upper bodies, more like the type that needs to feel weighted down to hold your place, to stand your ground. Does that feel true for, yeah. And that's what your upper body says, right? That's where your weight is
100%.
held. Also, I can see right here in the lower part of your jaw, this is your root chakra. So this is physical energy, root and sacral energy, physical energy. So you both are like going to be hands-on type of men, which might also make you, you kind of seem like you have a little bit of the stockier build, right? So a little bit more physical in nature, hands-on. And because of that, that's probably what your fear response is going to be, is fighting, holding your ground, bottling things in. And when you bottle things in, you're going to be explosive or implosive.
Yeah. I've had to be more expressive with how I feel, to keep the, like, because I have a tendency, I have a temper too. So, I mean, I'll be, honest. And it's something that I've needed to work on for a long time. And so I think just as we've been doing practices and working with practitioners and finding different modalities to help us move through energy, it's helped out a lot. Being
And you
able to
mentioned
just
your lower back,
it,
and I'd be
versus
curious, like,
bottling it
where
up
on your
in,
lower
but
back is it? Low, like root chakra, or middle, like a solar plexus? Middle. Okay, so that's solar.
Usually like middle.
Yeah, so that's solar
I would say.
plexus. So that's
Sometimes it could be really low.
bending over backwards.
It just depends.
Do you bend over backwards for people? Yeah. Do you have a little bit of a pot belly too?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So what happens?
A
What
little
happens
bit.
when we bottle up our
A
emotions
little
and we're
bit.
bending over backwards to make everyone else happy? So say like this is our spine, right? And it should be straight for the most part. There's a little bit of a curve. But if you're bending over backwards, that energy gets kinked up right there in that hose. And the solar plexus energy, so solar plexus and sacral, this is where our guts are. And our guts are where we process emotions. So if you have a kink in the hose, right where your emotions are at, they're going to bottle up in that belly and explode every now and then. So what happens is when you bend the back like this, you disengage all of the leg muscles and butt muscles and your lower abdomen muscles. This is why you get the pot belly. Because instead of your power holding you up and you expressing your emotions, you shove them down. You bottle them in. So structurally, it would, one of the first things I tell people to correct besides foot point is their hips. Most hips are out of alignment. They're either cocked up or tucked under. So get those hips in alignment.
Good to know. Yeah, because I've always wondered what it was. I'd work out, I'd run,
too. I mean,
and
I would imagine
that
as
pot
gay
belly ain't
men
going
that
nowhere.
you have had a
But
lot of
okay.
experiences needing to stand up for yourself, feeling under attack, right? So I would imagine there's a lot there. Because that's solar plexus. That's your personality. That's who you uniquely are.
Yeah.
And when that's constantly challenged, no, we don't like you. No, that's not you. No, be different, right? That's a lot of pushback.
Are you ready to transform your life with the power of living water? Hi, I'm Devon Taylor, and I want to share an incredible discovery that's changed my life and my family's life: living water. Imagine waking up every morning feeling refreshed, energized, and ready to conquer the day. With living water, it's not just a dream, it's our new reality. We've been sleeping better, eating healthier, and have more energy than ever before. But that's not all. Our secret to this newfound vitality is available to you too. Visit our website at thelivingwatercouple.com and discover how living water can revolutionize your health and wellness. And there's more. Tune into our podcast, available on all streaming platforms and YouTube, where we dive deep into the science and benefits of living water. Hear from experts, satisfied customers, and learn how you can make this life-changing decision for yourself. But don't wait too long. Prices for our water machines and supply are going up in July 2024. Now is the perfect time to invest in your health and well-being. So, head over. Remember, living better starts with living water. Living water, drink, thrive, and live your best life. Visit thelivingwatercouple.com today. Wow, I'm so glad you spoke on that. I really wanted to ask you about, like, just because I know you speak a lot to the male and female energy, within that, how that intertwines, but just the thought that kept coming to mind was like, I'm gay, but how does what does my energy look like? And wow, just in a nutshell, you just gave me so much. That was, yeah. I've struggled a lot with always having to defend myself and who I was and where I've come from or what I'm about.
I would say that is what every human deals with, is to be their most authentic self. And if I'm honest with you, every individual I work with, their solar plexus is jacked. Nobody has an aligned solar plexus. There's always some sort of compromise in energy. And this is why you should work with me.
Hey, excuse me, Kelly. Can you please share about your program?
So Soul Much Love is my baby. And I like to call this the awakening process. It wasn't until I started rewriting my manual, like doing the second edition of it, that I realized I think I've tapped into the Christed consciousness. I think this is what this is. Because what consciousness is just becoming awake and aware of our surroundings. And if I'm not this body, then the consciousness is this body. And this body is just the expression of that consciousness. And so what I teach is how to get in touch with that consciousness. And so in 10 weeks, you're going to get all the tools you need to begin your subconscious reprogramming. And I say begin because it takes time, right? We're not a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am type of thing. Like, learning to get in touch with your soul is an act of devotion. And so in 10 weeks, you are going to learn the language from the feet all the way up to your head. Now, be aware that the feet, face, and hands, they have their own separate readings. They have all their chakras and everything. So they are their own separate readings. So when I say you're going to learn the language from the feet to the head, I'm talking about posture and position. Doing a whole hand reading or a whole foot reading or a whole face reading is its own reading. But you will understand what your posture and your position mean, what all the different shapes of your features mean. And we're going to go through this in order from the root chakra all the way up to the crown chakra, because we need to start with the foundation, your roots, make sure they're healthy, make sure your foundation's solid, and then we start to build your house. And throughout this, you're going to learn how to work in your power as well. So if our body has been misaligned by emotional experiences, then we also have to realign the physical structure. And it's very nuanced work. It's not lifting weights. This is all body weight exercise. And I guarantee you, you are going to be sweating and shaking by doing these micro movements, because this is working your intrinsic muscles in, and it's retraining your body to contain power versus dispersing it with every movement. Most of us don't even understand how to consciously use our body. And so we're throwing away power with every step that we take. So I teach you how to work in that power. And then there are different embodiment practices that I guide you through, or you go through privately or with the group, that begin to interrupt the pattern that's in the emotional body. And why this is so important is because we can't talk ourselves into healing. Okay. As much as we want to say that the mind is everything and talk therapy is so great. all talk therapy does is rape your brain over and over with details. And the reason why is because trauma is stored in a different part of the brain. It's not stored where there is logic or time. So you're not going to reason with it, and no amount of time is going to make it go away. We've got to speak to it in the language that it understands, which is senses and emotions. And so this is acting out new experiences. We trigger the emotion, we get that emotion alive, and then we act out a new ending. And then the body mind says, oh my gosh, we solved the problem. We can let it go. And the more we free up our energy that's trapped in these patterns, the more that energy gets cycled towards life. Because energy can't be created or destroyed. You're either working to maintain trauma patterns in your life, or you're working to cultivate life. And so this whole program is teaching you how to interrupt those subconscious trauma patterns and become the most authentic version of yourself. And then we meet every week for 3 hours. So this is a dedication. This is a devotion to you. And when you see yourself, this is how you're going to be able to heal quickly. I went through about 4 decades worth of trauma in 3 to 4 years. And I'm talking, you guys heard me say that my parents raped me. My daughter died, hip replacements, so much. And it doesn't need to take decades upon decades to heal when we are connected to our source. So there's that option. If you join the full program, I do include the online face reading for free. If you're healing on a budget and you can't afford the full program, I have So Much Love Self-Study, which is a fraction of the price. It's $1,000. And that comes with all the stuff that you would get in the recorded program or in the full program, plus a monthly call. So it's not completely alone. And this monthly call is going to be with anyone who's taken a training with me, whether it's face reading, So Much Love, private training, whatever. So you get to practice, you get to touch in. And then if you want to book private trainings with me, we can do private group face reading trainings, or you can just go ahead and do the online training.
Well, thank you again for chatting with us. I appreciate you. We'll leave all of the social links so you guys, if you want to follow her or if you want to join the programs, you guys will have those links. All right. Thank you. All right.
Today's episode comes to you thanks to our sponsor, Kangen Water. Electrolyte-reduced water is the power of true hydration, manifested in the most advanced Japanese technology that has been in the market for more than 50 years. To drink the best water, shower with a hot spring quality water, and start a new business with the most amazing and profitable compensation plan in the world, visit thelivingwatercouple.com to learn more or get started today.